I got to say, Knew Amsterdam Radio is brought to you in part by Anchor FM. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? You see, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? And most importantly, I don't want to deal with cables and wires and all those things. You see, the answer to every single one of these questions is pretty simple. Anchor. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And you can use your phone, which is pretty awesome. Now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. So if you ever wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Welcome, citizens. Knew Amsterdam Radio starts now. It's Flobo Boyce, the mayor, hanging out and having a good time, talking to the individuals and organizations that are doing big things, creative things, entrepreneurial things, all of that with the Knew Amsterdam spirit. Learn more about this show and other shows in the Knew Amsterdam Entertainment umbrella at knewamsterdam.com. That's KADW. Amsterdam.com. And if you want to see even more bonus content, we're talking like past interviews, archive stuff, show notes, check that out over at patreon.com/FloboBoyce. That's patreon.com/FloboBoyce. Those who are members, we call them members of the Boisterous crew. I started the Discord. You guys can come through and say hello. My guest in just a few moments is one that is doing something pretty awesome when it comes to the world and realm of education. I have mentioned on my interview with him that I am a public school kid, and I am a proud product of the public school system back in my hometown of Brooklyn, New York. And so if there's anything out there that can help students learn, be able to open their minds to new and innovative technologies and seeing the world from a whole different perspective, I'm all about it. Denis Ocampo is the co-founder of OutBoxEDU, a platform which he explains in more detail because it was so fascinating. I just sat and listened to what he had to say. So do myself a favor, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This is Knew Amsterdam Radio. And without further ado, my interview with Denis Ocampo. Welcome back to Knew Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives and entrepreneurs. It's once again Flobo Boyce, the mayor, in here in the mayor's office. We're talking with the movers and shakers and those who are doing great things for their family or their community. And, well, my guest today is a very special guest, because this one comes from the segment of education, something I'm a big proponent of. I was a public school kid growing up, and I'd like to see people giving back and trying a way to uplift that. My guest today is Denis Ocampo, co-founder of the OutBoxEDU platform. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But before I do, just want to say, if you want to listen to this podcast episode and all the other podcast episodes, please log on to knewamsterdam.com. Without further ado, my guest, Mr. Denis Ocampo. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We're out here just spreading the word about the positive vibes. And I know what you're doing, what you're working on, is pretty positive, too, for the community.
Yes, it is. We're pretty much building a online engagement platform for students and teachers as well that they can use to pretty much engage their students, especially in this prevalent remote learning age, right, where everyone's at home and we're trying to figure out how we can better educate these students, right? How can we engage them in this Zoom age of learning and so forth? So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I want to get to that platform in just a second, but walk me through this, because I know a lot of us, we have ideas for things, ideas that we can change the world. And sometimes they happen not the way we want to. Sometimes they just get stuck in our brain as ideas. Walk me through your process. You realized there was a problem with the way education was, and you wanted to do something about that?
Yeah, so this started out back as a young child, right, growing up in New York City, as the son of two immigrants, right? Spanish was like my primary language spoken at home. And not only did I struggle with trying to learn English, but while adjusting to school and making friends, I just had that lack of familiarity with trying to build relationships with people because of that barrier, that language barrier. So it made it difficult, right, to have those positive social interactions with teachers and peers and, others in my community. So I was referred to ESL teacher. And as you know, in the public school system, that's really the only source of help that you can get when it comes to language learning and so forth. And so because of that, that didn't really help. And growing up now, and as an educator with the experience working in the New York City public school system, I wanted to address the disparities between school systems and the lack of resources for L students and just students in general, right? So that's why we pretty much built this platform.
So when you say like lack of resources, what's that look like in 2020? Because I grew up in the 90s and yeah, there were like computer labs with like Reader Rabbit and Oregon Trail, but like the whole game has changed. So can you help me understand that part?
Yeah, so right now, as you know, the education system is very, very, they're very tight on their money, right, in their budget and so forth. Mm-hmm. And they only allocate X amount of dollars to certain resources. Language learning sources is probably on the bottom totem pole of that, right? And they're just now getting acclimated with, language learning resources and even technology resources. I mean, if you look at it now, we weren't prepared for this, right? This pandemic. This kind of came out of nowhere and everyone was forced to learn from home. And we had to figure out how to do that. And yes, we have fared a lot better, but we could have been prepared a lot more than that. And so there's so many resources as far as online education platforms, such as the one that we're building, that are out there and have been out there for years that couldn't have been implemented. But yeah, that's why we're doing this. And this is even prior to this pandemic, because we're looking for this to be ubiquitous, right? And even used after, right, when everything is restored.
Yeah. When you start any kind of business, whether it's a product or a service, it's almost like you ever think of it two ways, like pre-pandemic and like post-pandemic. And it looks like your platform runs on an online system. But like, I guess the idea is, how do you approach that with you and your team about how this will be implemented in the pandemic era and post, hopefully, crossing fingers when it all winds down?
Yeah. So initially, like I said, it was a language learning platform. And again, seeing that there was a need for just a platform for teachers to implement their lessons, right, and make their curriculum and their lessons much more engaging for students, we said we had to pivot, and we made it so that now teachers can pretty much go into the classroom, right, a virtual 3D classroom, and implement things, right, and objects and just anything that is pertaining to education, and make it easier for their students to understand, right? Because as a kid, you learn more through play than anything, right? Even adults, right? You learn more through play than everything. And now, when we're in the workforce, things are so static. And even for people that are working, this is something that it can be used for them as well in the work-based kind of learning world and so forth. But going back to the children and teachers, right now, the attendance rate is super, super low because there aren't enough platforms that are engaging for students to learn in, right? Mm-hmm. Teachers aren't prepared in this remote age of learning to further the education of these students. And now these students are pretty much falling behind and slipping through the cracks. And they're losing a whole entire year of education to further their careers and their lives.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head about the importance of creativity. And this whole show is based on the creatives and those who take the plunge and those who try to think outside the box. No pun intended to your platform. But it's kind of interesting how, like, as we get older, we kind of push that aside. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of it. OutBoxEDU.com is a website, but it's more than that. It's a platform for educators to have their lessons in a unique and dynamic way. I know I had to be that guy. Allow me to be that guy for a second when I say, like, make it make sense for me, someone who doesn't quite understand what you do, how this program or platform can be important to someone, or a teacher, or a staff, or a school district.
Right. So the idea is to create, provide, and facilitate. So create, right? You allow as a teacher, the platform allows a teacher to create, online learning, engaging lessons and so forth that foster creativity and community. And when we say community, right, learning is is more than just one. It takes a village, right, for someone to learn and to understand whatever it is that they're immersed in. And so when we say community, we allow teachers, right? We allow parents as well, because it's a full circle. You have to have everyone involved in order to bring that child up. And with that, right, it helps them foster that creativity and that community, right? Again, because everyone's involved in that child's learning and so forth. And then to facilitate, right, we allow teachers with our interactive tool, that 3D classroom, right, to implement those lessons into the classroom so that that student can either use it when they're at home or when they're at school, and pretty much any time, right? Because education, learning is forever. You know, you never stop learning. Even after you get out of school, you got to keep learning, right? And that's the problem. People think that, oh, we go to school and that's the only time we learn, right? And then after school, it's like, that's it, you know, we hand out, and it's cool. That's life. But to have that access to say, hey, you know, I can easily go into this platform and understand the concepts, right, of whatever it be, whether it be science, math, the language learning aspect, right, with the speech recognition feature that we allow teachers to use to engage their students with, right? It's a fully robust platform that, again, allows them to just engage and foster that love of learning that, you know, we've kind of lost, right? So, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Since you're a co-founder of this like fantastic idea, you know, you have an idea for something, and I'm sure you have people on your team that are about it, or they see the vision.
Yes.
Like, what has been the challenge, the biggest challenge, is being the co-founder of out of a unique idea and shipping it to the end or pushing it to the end? What's been the biggest challenge for you?
I believe the biggest challenge is starting it, right? Okay. You have an idea. But it's about finding the right people and making sure that those people are all aligned with the same ideas and goals that you have. Because it's hard, you know, it's like finding the right friend or finding the right relationship. If you don't find that right person, it just makes it much more difficult. And I've been blessed enough to be able to find the right people, such as my co-founder, Drake Pretty. He's a U.S. Army man, and he's been in the 3D world, building, you know, immersive platforms for, you know, various different companies such as AT&T and you know, a lot of other platforms as well. And as well as my, we have the software developer, Noor, who knows how to code and work with 3D design and Unity and so forth. So we have a pretty good team that's been building out this platform from day one. But again, it all starts with the idea. It all starts with knowing what you want, knowing who you want around you, surrounding yourself around the right people so that you can make that vision a possibility.
Well, thank Mr. Pitty for his service. That's the ultimate sacrifice to sign up to be part of the armed forces. And I do hope it does launch well, because I feel like that's a crunch time. Work with personalities, trying to explain what your vision may be for something where it doesn't quite exist quite yet. Must be challenging at times.
Super. Yeah, it's super challenging because there's other platforms that are similar to us. But at the same time, our idea is we are more robust as far as with education. We allow, again, the idea to engage the students in a way that is super difficult to do, because with so many other, you know, platforms and just gaming, right? Because gaming is a big thing. Right. It takes away, right? It takes away from people's ability to be able to spend time on what's most important, right? And so, yeah, that's the idea, is to kind of put those two worlds or realms together and make it easy so that, again, everybody is actually learning and teachers are actually teaching and students are actually understanding.
Is this by subject or by grade, or is it by like mechanical inputs or anything?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix of all. Right now, it's by mechanical input. So, for example, if a teacher wanted to teach a student a certain concept as far as colors, right? We can build out, kind of like bring out whatever items that teacher wants to use to kind of have that student relate to colors, right? So if I want to bring out, you know, a book that has an animal in a certain color, right, and have that student repeat back and forth for what that color is or understand the concept of that, then you can do that. It's very open-ended, so it allows the teacher to, again, be creative as well and allow the student to kind of engage in that. And then with the other aspect of that as well is will allow for eventually teachers to have their own kind of like curriculum in there, and they'll be able to then push that out to other educators as well. And that's where that community aspect comes in, where it's like, you know, it's not like you're just holding all that information to yourself, right? You got to, you know, give it out to other people, and then everyone, you know, just we build upon that, right? Learn from that.
Now it's been a long time since I was in class, man. I'm dating myself, but I heard that I got the tail end of the extra kind of traditional schooling, as far as there was your main subjects, there was a couple of electives you had to do. I took home ec. I don't think home ec existed after me. You know, ceramics class. I've heard that there may be more of an emphasis, a pivot towards aptitude or actual achievement, which is good, because that way you can measure how people are doing in subjects. But I wonder, with the changing trends in education, what is your strategy, if I can poke your brain, about how to make sure your platform's adaptable when the needs change from class to class or year to year or subject to subject?
Yeah, again, it's based on the teacher's needs. So when we implement this into schools, right, we will align ourselves with what the schools need. It's open-ended, and it allows for schools to whatever curriculum or standards that they're aligned with to, again, use that and put it into our platform so that it's easily integratable. And right, there's no mess, there's no fuss. It's just really quick and easy. And that's the idea behind that. We want to make it simple, right? We don't want to, you know, complicate it. As an acronym that I like to use is KISS. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah. Keep it simple, right? But again, that's what we want to do. We want to keep it simple so that, you know, again, everyone is actually, you know, having fun in the process as well.
Yeah. Can I ask you a personal question a little bit?
Sure.
What do you do for fun? I mean, you can't be slaving away at your craft all the time, right? How do you unwind? What's your R&R look like?
I like to read. You know, I like to, you know, just enthrall myself in reading and just understanding, you know, the world and just how society works. And so, you know, I read a lot of different things on, you know, government, right? Learning about education and technology. So pretty much reading is my go-to thing. I like to just sit down and read every, you know, now and then.
Are you like a day off reading kind of person before going to bed? Like morning walk?
It varies. You know, I catch, you know, my spurts here and there just because I'm so busy. So I'll try, you know, a couple of minutes here to read, a couple of minutes there to read, and then a podcast as well, right? Because I've been getting into that a lot more, and it's becoming more popular now. You know, people are just now starting to catch on to it. It's like the new radio. But yeah, I've definitely, you know, I enthrall myself in reading and listening to podcasts and just trying to soak up as much information as possible, you know, because again, you know, learning is forever. So
that's true. They don't get take any knowledge away from you. I'm kind of the same boat. Like podcasts and books are kind of my thing. I'm more of a nonfiction guy. My things are into like business, governance. Like if this company owns this company, owns that company.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
So you have this is in beta, I hope, or is it already out for
It's in beta. Yeah, it's in beta. We are launching on January 5th. Okay. Right now, we're still working the kinks out. We do have demos and so forth based on whoever wants to see it, right, eventually. But right now, yeah, it is in beta, and we hope to get some people signed up so that they can, you know, have fun when we get it out there in January.
I understand that launch strategies can be highly proprietary. Don't tell me how the hot dog is made, but like, how does the rollout for this kind of look like for OutBox?
Yeah, so right now we're just pretty much connecting with all of our users through social media platforms. Also being an educator, right? Connecting with various other schools as well, and people in my circle that want this platform within their schools. And so we're just pretty much trying to, again, get as many people on board. And then eventually, once we get enough users, we'll, you know, unlock different features so that people can, you know, engage in it more. Eventually, what we're going to do is, again, have that marketplace for educators to be able to monetize on the back end, because as you know, I mean, it's tough as an educator to make money, working in the school and just doing that, because it just takes away from your whole life. And so we allow for them to monetize from their skills and their expertise by uploading those courses and, again, selling it to whomever it may be who wants to use it.
Oh, for sure. Just one more question before we get out of here. I know OutBoxEDU is going to be pretty big when it releases out there next year, but there have been some people who said that they get to see the demo, what it looks like as it rolls out. What's been some of the things that people have been saying about the platform as it's getting closer and closer to launch day?
Oh, they've loved it. They've raved about it. They want to see it out already. People want to use it, especially now with everyone being at home and we don't know what's next, right? People want something that their kids can actually learn from, that they can actually, engage in, and again, like, get something out of, because it's difficult. It's very difficult to find, the right person or thing that will educate that child, right? And so they're trying to find the next outlet. And right now, everyone is pretty much excited and waiting to get this into their hands.
Yeah, man. It just, to me, it blows my mind to have an idea. You see a problem, any kind of segment, or sometimes it's marketplaces, but here in this case, it's actually like a community need, and to go out there and find a solution and to work on it with a dope team. And I wish you nothing but the best. OutBoxEDU.com, January 2021 launch, when that 2020 is over, thankfully.
Oh, yes.
But before we get out of here, where can the world learn more about you as a person and also your platform?
Yeah. Well, our platform is pretty much on www.outboxedu.com. You can check us out at outbox_edu on Instagram. We're also on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. If you want to shoot me a message, Denis Ocampo on LinkedIn, you can pretty much message me there.
Oh, wow. I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck with the podcast as well.
That does it for me on this edition of Knew Amsterdam Radio. Once again, if you want to know more about the show, check out knewamsterdam.com. That's Knew Amsterdam.com. As for me, Flobo Boyce, your mayor, you can check me out on Twitter at Flobo Boyce or on Instagram at Flobito. And my personal website, it's over at flobito.com. Come by, say hi, see my face and what I look like and all of that jazz. Until next time, as always, the city is yours.